Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our humble podcast, Legal Tech Light. I'm Tammy French, Head of Strategic Partnerships. Today, I have with me Michelle Hamilton, our Managed Services Division Lead. I also, again, have Corbin French, our Professional Services Division Lead. And we're following up on his previous podcast, 4 ways to keep the data fresh in your matter management system. With this installment, which is basically how to keep fresh data clean and the difference in between. Thank you for joining us, Corbin.
Thank you for having me again. It was a pleasure getting that invitation. I was looking forward to this all weekend.
Were you?
I was, of course. Anytime I get the chance to talk to you two is amazing. And anytime anyone wants to hear me talk about what I do for a living, and that's amazing. Win-win for me.
Great. Well, we like having you.
You definitely do, because the information that you provide is very valuable. So let's jump into it. So the difference between clean and fresh. I'm interested in hearing this. Let's start there.
Yes. So continuing from the last time I sat down with the two of you, and we were all in person last time. So I'm fortunate that you're not here. Sorry. But talking about keeping data fresh is very important when it comes to matter management solutions. You want fresh data, you want to be able to report accurately, you want everything to, especially when it comes to cross-division reporting and, providing those exported files out of your platform to other divisions within your company, not necessarily legal. What got me thinking was, not only do you want it fresh, but you want it clean, because it's very easy to think, okay, let's keep it fresh and just get rid of everything, starting a year prior, just a year's worth of data in the platform, in our system, in the cloud, and that's it. But, that's kind of counterintuitive, because you really want to be able to report on those historic events, whether they be matters, invoices, letters, documents, anything. And so keeping data clean is the key to keeping data for a long period of time without crossing over, experiencing any type of creep when it comes to diluting data when you're reporting, and just down to getting rid of things. Because I was on the phone with a client earlier this morning that they asked me how to delete 26,000 matters out of their platform that every single matter has spend on it, which
Why do they want to delete them?
They don't want to delete them. I think it was just
delete them, but I'm asking, why do they think that they want to delete them?
Just to my previous point, just reporting purposes. I mean, when you're reporting to accounts payable, and especially if you're not incredibly proficient in your solution, most of the time, as you know, we bridge the gap when it comes to any gaps in personnel. I'm sure you talked about this on your other podcasts, but either way, if you're not very proficient in the reporting filters or anything like that, or any area where you would be, taking the data and giving it to someone else, it's very easy to think that if it's old, it should just be gone. So keeping it clean is really key there, like I said, because especially for, let's just say, matter fields, you're not going to have the same custom fields for an IP litigation matter as you are for an HR employment matter. You're not. So making sure that custom fields are active, or just, they don't have to be custom even out of the box, regardless of the solution. There are just some things that do not require to be completed, or for anything to be populated in the matter, like form of resolution would not really be applicable in an IP, trademark renewal matter. So
I know Corbin made mention of the creep, and I was thinking we all want to avoid the creep, no matter what it is, even in matter management systems, apparently.
Creep. No, just in project management, the one thing are the boogeyman I would say is scope creep. Because once I have my scope statement for a project and I just veer slightly away from that, that is scope creep. And so I just use creep for everything. Anytime you're going somewhere you're not supposed to.
I like it. I like it. It's a good one.
Whatever works for you, but I can see how you got there. That's very funny. Yeah, I get it.
Thank you. So with that, with keeping your data clean, if you can make sure and I know the two of you have heard me say it many times, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you're having in-house counsel fill out all of these matter fields, or it could even be populating data in a document or in an invoice, reviewing invoices that they should have rules set in that matter for the UTBMS codes, whatever it may be. If they're pumping in that garbage, it's a lot of the time, if you don't know what to put in there, they'll put not applicable, or I've seen them type out I don't know in matter fields, which happens. But then all that's getting stored in there. So once you try to run a report, you're seeing form a resolution, okay, mitigation, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very important to make sure that everything is clean, everything is accurate, understanding what area of law you're working in and understanding what applies to what. It makes everyone's job easier, and especially when it comes to getting audited, reporting to accounts payable, like I've said probably 5 times now, because they are the pickiest, I would say.
So you just brought something up, and I know that we're going to do a whole podcast episode on it later, but you brought something up and it immediately made me think of something. You're talking about reportable fields and the closing fields, and we're going to do an episode on matter closing to keep your data clean. But that brings me to another point. When you're filling out those closing matter fields, if you put in dummy data, then that doesn't do you any good later when you're doing the reports later. So that made me instantly think of this, because I previously have had clients come to me and say that they want, hundreds of matters closed or whatever the case is. And we ask them for the information for the closing fields. I'll provide them with a spreadsheet that provides the headers and drop-down lists that provide the data that they can populate those fields with, and they'll just say, you know what, just fill in zeros, just put in not applicable, just put in closed by John Smith or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, let's put in some data that is going to help us in the future. But ultimately we do what the client asks. So there have been times when I've closed these matters and it does make me cringe, because I'm thinking, what are the repercussions going to be of doing this now later on when we're trying to report on this information?
Absolutely.
Right.
And you were about to make
I was just I was going to ask, and kind of along the lines of what Michelle is saying too, I understand in closing matters, but are there any other particular instances that you can think of where clean data is really, really important in your matter management system, besides just the couple that you've mentioned? I was just wondering if there were any extras that you can.
Reforecasting budgets, that is a huge one. Whenever there's any type of reforecasting or any close of a fiscal year, fiscal quarter, when any of that's happening, oftentimes it's not just accounts payable that's asking for numerical data. It's also maybe the general counsel asking for any of the other data points that are being captured. So to your point, Michelle, dummy data does no one any good, really.
Right.
So once again, garbage in, garbage out. You want to keep it simple, and whatever is absolutely necessary to put into a matter and whatever is absolutely necessary to close a matter, that's all that should be in there.
And what are your thoughts on status reports?
Status reports, for some areas of law, very, very helpful. For others, not necessary, just like anything else. But I think status reports, it really depends on the size and scope of the organization, because if you're asking 150 in-house counsel, attorneys to provide status reports on 28,000 matters, good luck. I don't think that would happen. But
well, I've definitely had a client ask that if it's a matter where the projected spend is over a certain amount, then they require like a quarterly status report. So I was kind of just wondering what your thoughts were on that. So
absolutely beneficial. It's very important to have a stakeholder engagement plan. If you have a certain threshold or signing authority to where if you go over that, you need to report it to someone, I would definitely recommend having a status report. And oftentimes in these platforms that we work with, it's automated. So if you can set that threshold in there, and you could say, if I spend over $100,000 on this IP litigation matter, I have to tell my boss, and then it just sends you an email. And we all live in our Outlook. So if you can get that and you can just go right into the matter, type out your status report, I think it's very beneficial.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty well agree with everything you said. I think, Tammy, you asked about, if the firms have to go in and 28,000 matters, that's not realistic. And the firms are going to laugh and just say, yeah, I don't think so. But
NA.
exactly. Or, but for the ones that are high dollar amount, I definitely think that those are important. And obviously you'll have your one-off instances where maybe it won't be a super high dollar amount matter case, but you'll still want some kind of update on it. So, I think those are exceptions and extenuating circumstances, but I don't think that they're necessary for every matter or situation.
Not necessary for every single one, and just in the interest of providing a little bit of insight, and where a good starting point would be if someone were to be interested in trying to clean up their data and to make sure that their fresh data is clean. I always recommend starting with a RACI chart, which is RACI, responsible, accountable, consult, inform. And you have the tasks as the columns, and you have the just in-house counsel, in-house legal operations team members as the rows, and every task, you have someone that's responsible, someone that's accountable, someone that you consult if there's a change, and someone that you inform. And if you can do things, that's a very easy place to start. And you can put in, status updates, invoice processing, invoice approving, closing matters after a certain amount of time. And so then it's like a very well-oiled machine. And the best part about a RACI chart is you have the people that are on the RACI chart fill in their own tasks, what they want to be responsible for, what you want to be accountable for, what you want to be consulted about. And that way, and they always change. I'll just say that, when everyone fills it out, and you get it back and you say, wow, all of these people want to be responsible for all of these tasks. And then magically a month later, they just want to be informed. So, but that's a great way to really start cleaning up your data, because it really, without coming into an internal organization saying, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, they get to decide for themselves. And as it progresses and turns into the actual RACI chart, they'll already know, because they said to themselves on their way home from work, why am I responsible for approving this person's invoices?
Right.
Why did I put that down? So
that's a good point. So I've heard of that, but it's been a really long time and I completely forgot about it. So that's really interesting that you brought that up, and it just kind of makes me think about a specific client who might be able to use that. And I'm over here like wheels turning.
Yep. And
yeah, hopefully it'll make everybody think, hey, that's a great idea.
Sure.
And that's the biggest part of making these platforms seem not as scary as they come across. Like when you first go into anything, whether you're the brand new coordinator and you've never seen the platform before, or you've seen it before and you're just trying to make sure that the data is accurate and you're following all their processes, but you still see things broken, that's a great starting point, and it just really allows you to, number one, get to know everyone's responsibilities, allows you to keep a high level view of everything going on, so that way if you're responsible for keeping everything clean, you want to know where everyone else is. And it goes back into our previous podcast, where then you can make sure your user permissions inside of the platform are correct.
Right. Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you, Corbin. Do you have any more questions, Michelle?
I don't believe I do. No, I think that was great. Thanks, Corbin.
Awesome. Thank you, Corbin.
Thank you for having me.
And if anyone has any questions, Corbin's Calendly link will be in the social media post for this. This will also be available on our website soon. We'll have a whole section for podcasts. So please be sure to reach out if you have any questions for Corbin or Michelle or I. So thank you for joining. Have a great day.